The United States has cautioned Canada against backing out of its purchase of American-made F-35 fighter jets, warning it of potential fallout if the deal is scrapped. The U.S.-Canada ties have taken a hit under Donald Trump's administration, with escalating economic tensions and provocative proposals, including the push for the country to become the 51st U.S. state.
It's not just Canada, right? Some other countries are also reviewing their contracts to buy these very expensive fighter jets from the U.S. over trade concerns.
The U.S. and Canada are the only countries in the world to share a binational military command in NORAD, which defends the continent's airspace.
The world's most powerful allies are quietly drifting apart. Beneath the polite handshakes and smiling press conferences, a silent trade war brews between the United States and Canada, one that could redefine North America's future.
We have made a few deals today that are excellent deals for the country. You know, we're taking in literally trillions of dollars for the country.
All right, President Trump announcing new tariffs against Mexico and the European Union this morning, fueling a wider trade war between the U.S. and its allies.
It all began with a fighter jet, the F-35, a symbol of modern warfare, technology, and American pride. But behind its sleek design lies billions in controversy and a betrayal that Canada refuses to forget. In 2010, Canada committed to buying 65 F-35s from Lockheed Martin, a deal worth over $14 billion. It was sold as a promise of innovation, defense, and partnership. But it became a story of dependency, politics, and broken trust. Costs exploded, from $14 billion to $20 and counting. Every year, new upgrades, new maintenance fees, new obligations, and every cent tied Canada's military deeper into Washington's pocket. When Ottawa finally hesitated, the U.S. didn't take it lightly. American defense lobbyists turned the pressure up. Canadian defense industries faced delays, denials, and quiet threats of exclusion from joint projects. Then came the tariffs. Trump's administration hit Canadian steel and aluminum, the backbone of Canada's economy, with massive import taxes. A move that sent shockwaves across factories, families, and decades of trust. Officially, it was about national security. Unofficially, it was punishment. In towns like Hamilton and Sault Ste. Marie, where steel once defined identity, workers watched their futures evaporate overnight. And for the first time in modern history, Canadians took to the streets. Not against China, not against Russia, but against America. Prime Minister Trudeau called it an affront to friendship.
This bullying, we're a tenth of the size of that country, 300 million or 400 million people in the States and about 40 million in Canada, but we picked no fight. But it just keeps coming to us. He's proven that he doesn't even respect our country anymore.
But Washington didn't back down. They doubled down. Because to the U.S., this wasn't about friendship anymore. It was about control. Behind the scenes, diplomats scrambled. Negotiators tried to preserve NAFTA, now renamed the USMCA. But in every clause, every hidden paragraph, America's dominance was unmistakable. Canada's trade freedom had been quietly signed away. For decades, Canada relied on America for protection, for trade, for growth. But what happens when your greatest ally becomes your greatest risk? So Canada began to look elsewhere. Europe, Asia, even China. New markets, new alliances, new ambitions. And though it seemed bold, it was also dangerous. Because stepping out of America's shadow has consequences. Washington's response wasn't through war, but whispers, delays in intelligence sharing, slow approvals for joint projects, a sudden coldness in the corridors of NATO. No statements, no sanctions, just silence. The kind that sends a louder message than words ever could. Then in 2023, after more than a decade of tension, Canada finally gave in. They confirmed their order for 88 F-35s at a staggering $38 billion. The same plane they once rejected, the same deal they once called unfair. Some called it pragmatism, others called it surrender. Either way, Canada had chosen stability over sovereignty, and for many that decision felt like losing something far greater than money. It felt like losing independence. But history has a strange sense of irony, because while Canada was struggling to hold its ground, the rest of the world was shifting too. China was building empires through trade, Russia was rewriting global energy routes, and America was watching its dominance slowly tested from every direction. Even the F-35, once the pride of Western air power, became a symbol of frustration, expensive, delayed, grounded. Its promise of invisible air superiority often overshadowed by maintenance nightmares and budget chaos. And yet, countries kept buying, not because they wanted to, but because saying no to America had consequences. That's when Canadians began asking, if every deal comes with strings attached, are we really free? By 2025, cracks in the alliance were visible. Diplomatic meetings became colder. Defense ministers traded polite smiles but hard words. And trade offices quietly sought alternatives, code for escape routes. Maybe the US and Canada aren't enemies, but they're no longer equals either. One is fighting to keep power, the other to keep identity. And while both share the longest undefended border in the world, what truly separates them now isn't geography, it's trust. The kind of trust that built highways, treaties, and generations of peace. The kind that took a century to earn and only a decade to lose. Perhaps this isn't a story about fighter jets or tariffs at all. It's a story about dependency and what happens when a nation realizes it's not as independent as it believed. Because the real battle between America and Canada isn't being fought in the skies or on the factory floor. It's being fought in the quiet rooms where deals are signed, alliances are tested, and futures are rewritten. And when history looks back, this may not be remembered as a war between enemies, but as a warning between friends. The question now isn't who wins, it's who walks away still standing.